Hey everyone, thank you for watching today's episode. We want to acknowledge and send our sincere condolences to the Abraham and McClure family for the dear passing of our dear sister Shamia. She was a bright light. She loved her family, she loved God, and she loved people. So we want to dedicate this show to her. And you're watching. Get into it. All right. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to you, depending on where you're watching this and what time you're watching in part of the world. You're watching Get Into It live chats with Kimberly Willis, where we have real cancer conversations with survivors, caregivers, and anyone who's really connected to the cancer community. And I am your host, Kimberly Willis, and I bring you greetings from the United States, from Michigan, the Mitten State, and you are watching Get Into It. We really like to just focus on just a lot of cancer things. And the reason why we do that is because I myself am a cancer survivor, a stage 3 breast cancer survivor, in fact. And I really do that by helping with various products and services, such as producing books to be able to encourage and give you hope, with inspirational wear, with styling, and so much more. So if you want to get connected with me, make sure that you're following me on my website, survivorscorner.net. On Instagram, survivors_corner, Facebook, or on YouTube, you could find this and watch the rebroadcast of several of my shows. Each one of them has a powerful message. Even if you're not a part of the cancer community, the lessons that you'll learn from these shows are so impactful. I'm really excited to have the guest that I'm having today. She is so special, and I'll get ready to talk about our connection in just a minute. But Shanette Kennedy is a registered nurse and with a specialty in oncology. She currently works as the oncology infusion nurse, and she is also a medical surgical nurse in oncology. Oncology is her passion, and she was blessed to fall into her niche right out of nursing school. She has been an oncology nurse for about 10 years, and she has done palliative care in hospice. She believes that a cancer diagnosis is one of the most anxiety provoking things that a person may deal with. But through education and support, Shanette strives to make navigating through such a difficult time easier. Outside of nursing, she is a mother of two beautiful young ladies and is also a faithful member of Russell Street Missionary Baptist Church. And before I bring her on, in fact, I'm going to bring her on, but then I got a surprise for her. So let's bring her on. Shana, how you doing, girl?
Hello. Thanks for having me, Kim. How you doing?
Good. Listen, make sure for all of our listeners who's watching today, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Your comments that you do on this live show will be shown. So if you have any questions for her, please shoot them. She is such a bright light, and I'm going to show you the connection that I have with my dear sister. Hang tight. Hold on. We're going to come back in just a second. Let me see. Here we go.
I'm with this fabulous warrior. It's the last day. She was such a trooper. I'm so proud of her. She's got to get glam to go in the infusion center. The leading lady of my life. Last one.
God has been awesome through this whole process. I totally couldn't get through it without him at all.
You're gonna leave that right there so you can read.
Okay.
And then Shanette has the nice, we can hold you. Very nice.
Okay, then you go ahead and read.
Yeah, you can read your little poem.
Okay. Ringing out, ring this bell 3 times to toll the clear. I can't read. Still the Benadryl.
The Benadryl.
The toll to clearly say, my treatments are done. Its course has run, and I am on my way.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my gosh. What a
Yes.
beautiful day. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yes. So if you guys
can
look closely,
remember
you
that
saw
shit.
the hug that we did with each other. She is so special. I loved, and I can honestly say this, I loved all of my oncology nurses that I had. However, this one right here, I had a special connection with. She helped me through all the stages. She made me feel beautiful for the days that I didn't. So it's just a blessing to have you on here. So let's get into it. There we go. I heard a
It was
little
such a
delay.
family. All right, we good?
Yep, we're good.
All right, got you. All right, it was such a beautiful experience getting to meet you and your family, and that was so beautiful. Oh my God, I can remember your last day, Bill. Oh my God, I remember your journey. I was so blessed to be a part of your journey. I cannot express to you enough how it feels to help somebody see somebody through that cancer journey and that experience. It is the most heartfelt thing. And it is why God chose me, I believe, to be in this area of nursing.
Yes, we got Mr. Lance saying that's a powerful video. Thank you so much. I again, I just cannot thank you for what you do for not only just myself but for others. We were talking about this prior to the show, and one of the, every year pre-COVID, I used to go and visit all of my oncology nurses just to kind of say thank you and just to see how things are going, just to show my gratitude. And I remember one of the people that I used to sit next to or be in the infusion thing, because there's this lobby, you see all the same people because we go either weekly or every 2 weeks or so. And I saw him there again. And it was just, it reminded me that, hey, I'm still alive and that's not me. But then also just showing how important that you are to those individuals who have to go back, that you might see 2 to 3 times while they still have to get ongoing treatment. So again, hats off to you. Let's dive into a little bit more about you. So we know that you're an oncology nurse. We know that you're a mom of 2 beautiful girls, but tell us a little bit more about you.
So like you said, I am an oncology nurse. I have 2 daughters. They are 7 and 9. They are the light of my life. I come from a very supportive family. I'm the church nurse. I just nurse everywhere I go. That is me. I am a registered nurse. I work at Beaumont Health. Anything said or viewed here is not the opinions of Beaumont. I must say that coming right off the bat, how that goes. But all in all, I have walked this walk alongside my mother. My aunt just a few years ago was touched with breast cancer. So at some point in your life, everyone will have form or touch with cancer. And it's just my duty. I feel like the most important thing you can do is have that knowledge, have that strength, and have people around you who will educate you and kind of walk you down that journey. Because it doesn't have to be a death sentence. It's not always a death sentence. Mm-hmm. Survivorship is everything. There's so many stages to cancer and so many things. You need your family. You need people around you who will support you and see you through however the end looks for you.
Yes. So talk about, okay, what inspired you to be a nurse, but then how did you find your niche so quickly?
Honestly, I filled out an application at the hospital and I got a job, and it was on the oncology unit. I did the interview and I said, okay, I can do this. I was young. I was like 19. I was very young. I was like, okay, I could do this. I went to work and I absolutely loved it. I loved it. And I went to nursing school, and I was blessed enough. I don't even want to say I was lucky enough. I was blessed enough to come right out of nursing school and get a job on the oncology unit. And my coworkers grew me. I was blessed to work with amazing nurses, seasoned nurses, and they literally grew me. They educated me. I worked alongside great doctors who explained everything to me. And I learned so much in such a short amount of time that I knew that this was the area that actually chose me. When I got out of acute care oncology, I went to the infusion center, and that's just a different type of nursing. You see people, you see them start their journey, you empower their family to help them. You see them when it gets in the thick of it and it's kind of going a little sideways, and you see the good and the bad. Sometimes we are helping people to get to ring their bell for the last day, and some people were helping them make decisions to be comfortable and go on, and their journey might change. Either way the journey goes is okay. It's strengthened either way. You never lose a battle to cancer, and I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah, that's good. Talk about the nursing community and how important it is to have a strong community with your fellow coworkers as you are seeing so many patients.
Oh my God. So I think we learned in COVID that you need your coworkers. You see your coworkers so much. I have been blessed to not have to work with bad coworkers. My coworkers, we sing at work. We keep each other going. Oncology can be tough. We see people, we lose people, we see people decline, and we depend on each other to keep going. So having that community, that even if it's not your best day, they're not going to let you drown. They're not going to put you in an unsafe situation. It's important. We get so many different drugs in oncology that if you don't know something, you need to be able to feel comfortable going to someone and saying, hey, I don't know this, but can you help me? Or this doesn't look quite right. Can you come in? I never did this IV before, or I've always not gotten her IV. Can you come in and help me? Being able to be helpful to someone in receiving help, it's everything. I am so glad that we are not a unit where we eat our young, where we don't inspire each other or help each other. I could never work in a toxic, y'all like that word this year, toxic environment.
Wow. We have Miss Williams that said, listen, you're her favorite nurse. Thank you for watching. So one of the things that I appreciate with the oncology nurses is that they're able to be flexible and try different approaches. Because I think you kind of have to, because everyone reacts different to the chemotherapy drugs. Like for my instance, I was very sensitive to the saline. And listen, that is the first thing you got to get. So for me, I remember one of the nurses, they allowed me to, they pushed it in slow. We came up with this game plan. I had to have some crackers. I had to have, I remember it was the Simply Lemonade Raspberry. I don't even drink it anymore because it reminds me of chemo, but it helped me to get through. And they did a slow push to ensure that I did not get ill during my session. So talk about being sensitive to the patient's needs.
We are here to serve you, honestly. That is our job. We want to make you feel comfortable. We want your family to trust that when you're in our care, when we've given you a little bit of the Benadryl and you kind of fall asleep, we're taking good care of you. When we're seeing things, we're the eyes and the ears for the doctor, right? So everything comes from the physician. A lot of things can change in 24 hours from when you see your physician to when you're sitting in my chair. So we have to be vigilant enough and articulate enough to say, hey, something's not right. So we are calling physicians, or you might not have told your doctor this was going on, but you relayed it to me. So now I am letting the doctor know. So it's kind of like a bridge. We're a very strong bridge between the patient, the physician, and even the pharmacist that mix your drugs up, because you may have a different relationship with your nurse than you may have with your physician. We see you guys. We spend a lot of time with you guys. So we're talking about different things and we're getting to know your families. So that relationship, that patient-nurse relationship is really important. We learn about other cultures while we're in our field. We learn about families. We learn about family dynamics. You may love me as a nurse, and the lady sitting next to you like, I can't deal with her as a nurse. She got too much energy for me. Or we kind of gauge what a patient needs, and we feed the patient and latch on to their needs, and we interact with them according to their needs. And I think that's very important. You have to, sometimes it's nothing personal. My favorite phrase I've learned in nursing is Q-tip. Quit taking it personal. It just may not be your best day, or that patient may not be having a good day. You can't take that personally. You can't take that home. You provide the best care you possibly can, and you move forward.
That's good. I think that's really important to share that because sometimes, when you're not feeling your best, you're not reacting in, your normal selves. And sometimes you may take it out. And unfortunately, sometimes the nurses are some of the people that they are taken out on because they're frustrated, especially if the drugs are starting to not work. And it could just make the whole process frustrating. With you being a nurse, there is the flip side. You got your wins as far as, you see someone from start and then they're able to ring the bell. But then for those, unfortunately, as you mentioned, you've seen the decline. Tell me, how does that affect you as a nurse? Do you end up taking those things home? How do you recharge for the next time that you have to go in?
I think the most beautiful thing about being a oncology nurse is see the journey and helping people through the complete journey. And if you know anything about a journey, every journey has a different destination. And the medications are not working. I am always looking at quality of life. No matter how this journey ends, life to the fullest.
Yes.
And I am very, 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 very vocal about options. You are not stopping the fight because you choose to be comfortable. You're not losing the battle because you choose hospice. There are so many options when it comes to cancer treatment and palliative care. And when there's no treatment left, there are options so that you can be comfortable, you can have dignity in your last days, and you can ultimately make your own decisions. And it's a part of my job to help you know that those options are available. Culturally, some people do not understand you don't have to live your last breath getting chemotherapy. You do not have to come every week and be so sick, and there is really nothing more we can do for you. That is not everybody's preference, and we have to respect those decisions. So I rest my hat on death being as important and as beautiful as life. We do all of these things in preparation for a baby to be born. And I think when we get to the end of life, we have to make those valuable connections. We have to understand that comfort. We have to do those things to get that closure, because there's opportunities for that in a lot of situations where families can rally around, they can get closure. And we have to respect those things. We have to have those uncomfortable conversations so that when we are at that finish line, no matter what that finish line looks, even if you can't ring that bell for yourself, your loved ones are ringing that bell for you because they know what you want. They understand your wishes.
Yeah. That is so good and such a good perspective because, like you said, when some have the option of, you know what, I don't want to do this no more. Some people are looked as they're not fighting anymore. But I love what you said about giving them options, but then also letting them have the dignity to go out the way that they want. I absolutely think that is amazing, and that says a lot about you and all the medical staff that has to see the birthing of things, but then also the birthing of something else, because really it's a birth into something else. If you're a believer, you're getting birthed into something else. So
There
really,
you have it.
it's another way to rejoice because even though it's not healing on this side, it's healing in a different way. Speaking of faith, let's talk about how your faith has kept you not only professionally, but personally?
So I am raised in the church. Faith is everything to me. Um, I am a God-fearing Christian. I'm the church nurse, like I already expressed. I put on my white every Sunday, put my church hat on. It's a beautiful thing. But faith in my personal life, looking at cancer, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer 6 years ago. She ran the course, she fought the fight, and at the end we had to have those conversations of comfort and what the end would look like. And it was faith. It was faith when I had to have put my professional and personal things all in one compartment and deal with it all. The doctor had become, because oncologists, they love their patients, right? We see you guys, we see you come in with your family. My mom's doctor was so amazing, and he was in such tears in the meeting when she was not handling the news. Well, I said, well, Mom, you've been in church your whole life. We have this. So faith has given me a different perspective of what life, death, end of life, what all those things look like. I cannot say enough how much having a religious background, how much having prayer, being comfortable with prayer, being able to lay down those things in prayer, how much that has done for me in my personal and professional life.
Yeah, it's good. We share a commonality with both of our moms passing away from lung cancer as well. And you actually met my mom during some of the infusion things. And listen, if you knew my mom, like my mom doesn't care where she praised God at. So she was praising and during the infusions and different things like that. And she connected with Shanette as well. And you just have this light to be able to share your testimony in both professional and personal. I think that is important to do that. Some say that, it's not necessarily needed to have all that, but I think it is to have a belief in something at least. Of course, if you believe in God, I believe he will supply all of your needs, but to have hope in something, because your mental state is just as important as your physical state too. And
Absolutely.
sometimes we can stop the progression of things if we change our mindset with that. So even with you showing up to work every day, knowing that there's going to be some that's going to win on earth, and there's going to be some that's going to win in a different way. Be able to show up that way is you offering your best self to your patients each and every day. So Lance said, no matter how this journey ends, live life to the fullest. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, friend. Absolutely.
Yes. So let's talk about your mom a little bit. How was your mom?
Oh my God. My mom was a beautiful personality. To know my mom was to absolutely love my mom. My mom she did not take no stuff, but I will say that my mom made sure that I was well equipped to live life without her. And I think that is one of the most important things you can give your children, is the ability to live this life once you're gone. My mom spoiled me. My mom supported me. My mom prayed for me. She was a believer. My mom could shout and tear a pew up. I will tell you, we are Baptists. So my mom could shout a church down. But ultimately, my mom was a nurse. My mom was a nurse. I cannot leave out the fact that my mom was a nurse. And my mom wanted me to always have more than what she had. My mom grew up not having a lot. And that speaks volumes when you can provide more for your children than what you had. My mom lived her life making sure that we had everything we needed, that my brother and my sister and myself, that we were close knit, and even my dad, my parents in general, but my mom for sure made sure that when it was over, we knew love, we knew we had each other, and we knew how to keep going. We knew that God was going to be good even when the sun rose the next day. And that was important to her, to know that we would be okay. When we were going through hospice, my mom would talk to me personally, like right when my brother and my sister weren't around. Like I was the person she leaned on to make the medical decisions. My brother gave her whatever she wanted. That was her boy, right? And my sister was the business. So we all had our roles. So at the end, she would ask me, because I had my 2 girls, right? She was like, 2 requests. They don't forget me, and you gonna be okay, right? And being able to assure my mom that we were going to be good, I think that helped her rest. That helped her transition easier. It made everything better. But rest her soul, on everything I love, my mom made me exactly who I am.
Yes. We have Elena that's here that says she was everything to everyone, and the apple doesn't far fall from the tree. I agree with that. Even though I never personally got a chance to interact with your mom, I could just tell that you come from good ground
Yes.
from that.
I appreciate that.
We talked about earlier before we started to air about the grieving process and the stages of it. And, you know, I shared at the beginning of the show that someone I went to school with, her sister, who passed away today from cancer. She had survived breast cancer, and then another form came, and unfortunately she won her battle a different way. And I can hear, I saw the hurt in the post. I saw the hurt of wanting her to survive and almost being angry at God. And we talked about those different stages. So talk about those stages and how to move on from those stages.
So I think that the biggest mistake a person could make is to rush to move on. You have to feel it. My mom died in February. Her birthday came in April. Then it was Mother's Day. Before you looked around, the kid's birthday was coming. And it seemed like I was constantly being consumed. And the only thing I could remember was like, I felt like a surfer. Some days you ride in the waves, and some days the waves are just like slapping you in the face and taking you out. You have to respect the days where the waves are hitting you in the face and taking you under. You have to start to learn what you need in those moments. And early on, you don't know. You are trying to figure out a whole different world. Grief is a whole different world. There is no timeline on grief. I don't care if your job tells you to come back in 4 days. That process lasts. Some people will sail through the grief process and wake up 2 years later and they are paralyzed with grief and they can't understand it. You have to give honor to those stages. And once you give honor to those stages, I think there's a slow turning of where you'll start to move on, where you'll start to normalize. But you have to understand that normal looks a lot different when you lose someone in your life.
Yes.
I am a huge proponent of seeking professional help. Help somebody. Your friends are not equipped to help you unpack that bag. You need to talk to somebody who is professional, who is non-judgmental. It's confidential. Your friends cannot always help you when you're at those low points. Some of your friends, you could be angry at your friends because they're advising you, but they can still call their mom. Right. And that's a huge feeling when you feel like nobody can understand what you're going through. I will say that from my experience, there is life after death. You cannot see that right away. You can't see that in the first 6 months. You can't see it in the first year sometimes. Through faith, through exercise, through friendships, through whatever it takes. You have to learn healthy ways to cope and healthy ways to start to move on. Some people didn't know they had a book inside of them until they looked grief in the face. Some people didn't know what was going on, that they wanted to help other people until they were trying to dig themselves out of grief. It's no book on that. People have several theories, but there is no cookie cutter way to deal with grief. And I don't want anyone to feel bad if they're still crying 15 years later on Mother's Day or on Father's Day because they lost their father, or on their sibling's birthday, they are still shattered. It's important to honor the people you have lost, But if in honoring them, it is important to let them rest and to also start to learn to move on to live, because that is the other side of grief. They will want to see you living. They will want to see you make it. And I'm crazy enough to believe that people, my mom is looking down like, oh, you on a little podcast? Okay, baby, I see you. I'm crazy enough to believe those things. And if that's what helps me get through, that's what we do. That's what I need sometimes.
Yeah, that's so good. I like that you said that not only are we honoring them, but we have to honor our feelings. And that is such a powerful statement because, like you said, we rush through our emotions sometimes. Some people don't like to see people, see them cry, and they will hold it in. But one thing I've learned is when, even though that you're not letting those tears out, those tears are doing something to you internally. And it's very
Absolutely.
important to make sure that you are giving yourself the opportunity to purge all those things out. You earn the right to purge all those things out. Grief is the price that we pay for love. You have to be able to express what you went through so you can eventually get to that other side of honoring them in books or honoring them in podcasts, honoring them in a clothing line, honoring them in whatever that you set your mind off to. All of our pain has a purpose, and it's a way for us to not just sit in what that pain was, but be able to turn it in such a way to not only that you are benefiting from it, but others are benefiting from it. And you mentioned about there's no timeline. And I agree with that too. I think the first year is especially rough
Oh my God.
because you are trying to figure out what life is going to look like afterwards. But then you are also dealing with all of the anniversaries, and that's really tough. The first of the birthdays, the anniversary of the death, all of those things can impact you. And it's so important to make sure that you're allowing yourself to be able to grieve, but then also to not stay there as well. And that goes back to your faith with having a strong support system. And I totally agree with you that it's okay to have not only theology, but to also have a therapist as well.
Absolutely.
Use those tools to be able to inspire you and get you over with that. I want to acknowledge some of our viewers that we have. Brandy Long says, yes, they're always looking down on us. Absolutely. And we got Jill here. Hey, sweetheart, how are you doing? Thanks for watching again. I appreciate all of my roses that's watching. And for those who are watching, I just want to remind you that a blue rose, which is, in the logo in Survivor's Corner and my boutique 49 Rose, it means to attain the impossible. And I believe that's what all of you are and all of our survivors are. We are all survivors of something. So I think it's very important to highlight that and to just celebrate all of my blue roses that are here. We got some more. You guys are on fire today on the comments. Yes, theology and therapy. I like that. And we got, hold on. You preaching, Shanette? Yes, she is. Come on, let's put her in B flat.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Now, let's talk about social relationships. When you are going through your own personal battles with having a loved one deal with cancer, or even things where you're dealing with work, because obviously you can't really disclose things that's going on at work, but you still may have the emotions. How has that changed your relationships with people? Have people backed off? Have people rallied around you in your time of need?
I think that I have found a very good balance with balancing my patients. I will say, I think my coworkers would say that I'm the nurse that take everybody home with me. Okay. So I am the nurse you ain't coming to chemo today. So I need to call and check and find out what you're doing. Are you okay? I love my patients genuinely. I call them my personal pan patients, right? Like, how you can go to somewhere and you get you a little personal pan piece, so they're cut out just for you. Some of my patients, when your patients need a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
When your patients need a little bit more support, they need a friend, and then they get Shanette for their nurse. And I'm singing, you ain't feeling happy today, and I'm still in your room singing, or we're talking, or I'm checking on you. But in that season, in that cancer season, I can't speak to it, but I know that dealing with people with cancer, you feel no one understands you. I feel like it is very important to get into support groups, get
Mhm.
into these groups of people. I say that kind of lightly though, because sometimes you'll get in these Facebook groups and it's so down and so much weight. You have
Yeah.
to do it, but you have to kind of understand that you have to filter it. Sometimes you have to unplug and walk away,
Mhm.
because while those people are in your group and they're supporting you, they're also going through, right? So they're not always getting the good news. They're not always seeing the treatment results that you're seeing. 100 people can have the same cancer diagnosis, receive the same treatment, and have totally different experiences.
Mhm.
And on the outside looking into that, for people supporting people with cancer, you can't always say you understand, because you don't
Yeah.
until you have to sit in that chair, you have to get that poison in your body, and you have to walk those days down and walk that journey down. But continue to be supportive.
Mhm.
Continue to not have the answers, but continue to be supportive. Because even in that healing process, or even when we think it's going to work and you're going through the CAT scans every 6 months and it's that anxiety there, you still need people around you to rally around you when it's ugly, to rally around you when you are not easy to deal with. Because
Mhm.
this journey is not easy. The cancer journey is not easy. And it's hard on not only for the person going through it, but the people around, because more times than not, you do not know what to say. You don't know what's acceptable or what's expected. What should I know? What should I do? And we're constantly overcompensating to please a person going through, when sometimes they just need a little bit of space.
Yeah.
So the two things I say is find your people. Find your people. Look at the groups, but also rely on the people and love the people around you. But give people grace on both ends. Grace works both ways. You are afforded grace, but you also have to give people grace, because neither party knows what you're going through.
That is so good about giving grace. I cannot stress that enough. Um, we want to receive grace, but sometimes we don't want to give it, because giving it is giving effort. Sometimes giving grace is denying of yourself. Sometimes wanting to be in the know, wanting to know why you're feeling
Mhm.
this way, or being a little invasive at times. I think it's so important to give grace, because you don't know. And even if you've had cancer yourself, and even if you had to be in that chair, you still don't know, because you don't know the dynamics of one's body. You don't know the dynamics of what they have to go home to and things like that. I think it's so good that you said that. Tam Tell and Tale said that I had no idea how much I needed to hear all of this until now. Thank you, Shanette. Listen, and we talked about, we got the Reverend Nurse here. Yes, again, I told we need to put her in B flat. I'm right with that. I think that what you said about finding your people is important. I'm a big supporter of support groups, but yes, you have to find your right one, because sometimes all you have in some of those groups is just the negative Nancy's. They don't want to talk about the positive side. And I think that it's important to talk about the real, but then you also have to be able to highlight what the grace looks like, what things look like on the other side. I think it's important for a survivor to see someone who's thriving, and not someone who is just only in the stages of um, throwing up, or having their nail beds get dark and all that, because we know all of that. But we need to see more of, hey, you know what, this individual was able to have a career since cancer and do all the things. We need to see more of that. And let's talk about the importance of not moving on too fast when someone has had cancer, irregardless if they made it this way or they made it in the other way. Because I think sometimes we make the mistake with survivors, especially those who are still here, that once they survived cancer, we think that everything is normal for them
Oh
again.
no,
And
no,
it's not.
no.
You know about these drugs, especially the Red Devil, the doxorubicin is horrible on the body. So talk about the effects of how chemo is on the body, and how we shouldn't move on so fast thinking things are normal for the survivor.
Yes, yes, yes. So the hallmark thing at the end of treatment is to ring the bell.
Mhm.
People get so excited to ring the bell at the end of treatment. The last day of treatment is not the end of the journey. You are still quite tired. You could take 6 months to a year to regain your full strength, for your appetite to look the same. And I think that people are we live in a microwave generation. We are in a rush. Everything comes to us fast. We want to get back to our normal lives because we feel like we have wasted so much time with cancer. And that's a mental thing. People who are going through feel like that pause is just like a waste of so much time, and I have so many things to do. And it's just like you get this checklist that's a mile long and your body is still in that healing phase. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You have to still be patient with yourself. You're surviving, you're thriving, but you're also healing. And it's unfortunate that some people are in a position where they've taken time off work and they have to rush back to that job, or they have to snap back and waste another moment with their kids. In some instances, you do yourself a disservice because you've burnt yourself out trying to hurry up and get well. So honor the process in all aspects of your life. Honor the process, no matter how that looks. You don't owe it to nobody to be the perfect poster child for what cancer recovery looks like. You don't owe it to anybody.
Just like you told me about how what I was going through, there was a ministry behind it. I want to say it's the same for you. So you need to write down, honor the process, and figure out what you need to do with that. Because you mentioned that so many times. I think that something is going to be birthed out of that. Something that you wasn't even expecting, but someone's going to be delivered from this. People are already getting excited and delivered just off of this show. I could only imagine what your reach and impact's going to look like, because this is obviously, and it's clear that it's beyond this show. Talk about, because we talked about chemo a little bit and you being a nurse, but really walk us through what infusion session looks like, because people know, yes, you got to get the medicine in your body, but I don't think they really understand the process. So can you enlighten us what that's like?
So every infusion center, I'll start by just going off the dynamics of an infusion center. Everybody's infusion experience is different. I am lucky to work in a center where people are in private rooms for their infusions.
Thank God for me.
Some people are in the fishbowl setting, which, I mean, you get your treatment how you get your treatment. But the fishbowl setting is where you're kind of in a communal area. You may be separated by a curtain. Some people prefer that because they get a chemo buddy. But a chemo buddy is good until your chemo buddy is declining and you're at a loss because you come to every treatment together and now that chair is empty. So I think mentally, sometimes that fishbowl area is a little harder on the patient. So you come in, some people have Metaports, some people get their chemo through their vein. It all depends on your regimen of treatment. You meet your lovely nurse, you meet your nurse assistants, you have staff who is going to go through safety checks. First and foremost, the biggest thing in cancer care is delivering safe and efficient care, right? Yes. So the physician has written your orders. The nurse has checked your orders with pharmacy. Pharmacy has double and triple checked your orders. Now the chemo is on the floor, and we're going to check that chemo with the patient. We're going to make sure that that wristband says your name along with the chemotherapy. And before we get ready to hang any of those meds, you might see your nurse get her gown on and her goggles. And the first, that freaks people out. Like, you putting this gown on and it's going to me and I don't have no gown on. Right. And so that really freaks people out when we're getting ready. But the idea is that a lot of times we're hanging the chemo at eye level so we don't get it in our eyes or contaminate our skin or everything. Everything we do in preparation to hanging your chemotherapy is to get you ready for chemo. So you may get medicine before chemo to help with the nausea, to help with kind of protect you from even having a reaction. On your chemo days, be prepared to rest. You can have a support person, but when you're the support person in the room, this is not your day to tell your story. Sometimes you are there to be the support person. I'm all for the praying, but this is not your day to tell me when you had cancer, when I was in the chair, they did it like this. No, you are here to support, motivate, encourage, and offer to go get them some water or anything you need. hopefully, if you come and you get to meet a good nurse like me, your nurse is laughing, your nurse is educating you, your nurse is going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you the worst thing that in my experience and what I've read and what I know may happen, so that when you come back to me in 3 weeks, you can be like, Shanette, now why you tell me all of that and none of that happened? I would rather you be at home and be like, okay, she said that maybe in 3 days that I was going to have this nausea, so I'm about to take my nausea medicine. Then for you to be at home and this nausea is coming on, or you feeling like absolute crap and it's hitting you like a ton of bricks and you didn't expect it. So we will tell you everything that we could possibly think of that may happen to you in preparation of giving you your treatment, getting you home, and getting you through. At the end of your chemo day, after you leave the infusion center, you could possibly be tired. You may have an appetite that day to eat. You may not want to eat that day. You will learn on this journey how your infusion days look for you. The first day, people want to bring 5 people to the infusion center. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Come with one person, possibly 2, because the rooms are not that big. It's not that much space. And your nurse needs to be able to provide safe care. Safe care is what we don't want a million people around when we're accessing your Metaport. We can't, if it's a medical emergency, I can't move 5 people's purses to be able to get to my patient. We just don't have the space for it. We love the support. We love it, but it's just not the space. And you learn what you need on your days of chemo treatments. We kind of learn some people need an extra hydration or a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But those are things that we learn on the journey. But on a basic chemo day, just come ready to relax, come comfortable. Wear a button-down shirt if you have a port, so we're not fighting with your turtleneck. Don't make us fight with your turtleneck. But otherwise, that is the typical chemo day. We walk you through every single thing we're going to give you, what we're doing, in hopes that we can make you comfortable enough to trust us, to trust the process.
I am cracking up that someone would wear a turtleneck. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I had a Metaport. It's right here. Like, or it could be in different areas, but mine was right here. So to have a turtle, it's totally blackening. You know, you gotta have these tubes. Like, they tell you that before you even get in the chair, like, this is what's gonna happen. So that just cracks me up. They're like, no, you ain't getting to this point today. Oh my gosh. I liked that you talked about the safety protocols in getting the infusions. And I can attest, yes, it is very important. Yes, they do that, because it actually kind of freaked me out until I got used to it, because, you know, my brother-in-law at the time, he actually worked in the oncology area where he made the chemo drug. So he kind of told me the process on his end. So then I got to see it in live action once the nurse have it. But once they have it, you know, like anytime that you go to the doctors anyway, they're looking at your band and saying your date of birth and your name. That's normal, right? But then they start calling out these numbers, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? They're like, and these numbers are long, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they just going on and on. And I'm like, okay, when are they gonna stop with these numbers? And then the other nurse is saying, okay, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they definitely making sure that you're getting the right drug, because nothing's worse with getting such a toxic drug in your system and it wasn't the right one. So, you know, and then plus Shanette don't want to deal with no lawsuits. So I understand why how important it is to make sure that you have that. And I liked what you talked about being you know, prepared with everything and getting all of the information that's needed. I spoke to several survivors about how they reacted to different side effects from chemotherapy, or even just really just the treatment process. Like me, I got a lot of side effects where my sister may not have, and our care is different. So I like that my nurses, such as yourself and others, I think Janet was one of her names as well. I remember her telling me, you know what, you may get mouth sores, gargle with baking soda and water. I use that to this day. And I tell people, if you got a sore throat, don't use the salt, use the baking soda, because to me, I think it's a little bit more effective than doing the salt water. But tell us some different tips and tricks about, you know, staying healthy when you are sick.
So for the most part, chemo makes you immunocompromised. And we all know that. So it's very important. I mean, we're all wearing our masks right now.
Mhm.
And as we start to relax the mask usage and everything, you are immunocompromised. We don't want you in the large crowds. You want to talk to your physician if you're getting any flu shots, if you're getting your COVID shots. If you don't feel well as a cancer patient, when you don't feel well, you don't have a large kind of tipping point, like we like to call it. So if you're kind of feeling run down, you have to kind of honor those days and get your rest. And if you spike a fever or anything like that, it's a little more important to you for you to contact your physician early when you're early on and not feeling well, so we can be vigilant of your symptoms and watching them, because for a patient on chemotherapy, not feeling well can easily become being septic and days in the hospital when we could have got at something very early.
Yeah.
So knowing your body is very important. Rest is so important. We always want to go. We always feel like we don't have enough time. We are walking around the world tired. You have to rest. You have to hydrate. You have to kind of get to know what your body needs. Oncology patients, sometimes you don't have an appetite. You have to try to eat something. You have to try to eat protein-rich meals. If you can't eat a full meal, if a full meal is overwhelming, that is okay. I always tell people, get you a little saucer, right? And put a little bit of this and a little bit of that on, because you'll feel like you accomplished everything if you can eat everything off your plate. But if your plate is so large that it makes you sick, it's ineffective. So there are also the Boost, the Ensure drinks, and things like that that are out there to support you. And you just have to learn which one you like, which one is palatable for you.
It's good. I want to highlight that, a lot of people are afraid of chemotherapy, and understandably so, because again, those medicines are very aggressive in trying to take out an aggressive cancer that's going on in your body. However, it doesn't have to be that bad, meaning that your approach to it, I think, needs to um, you have to just watch how you just approach getting ready to get chemo, because again, it's more than just physical, it's mental. I cannot stress that enough, because when you have to see the medicine enter into your body and you start to feel it, and in my case taste it, you have to get yourself to a space and then surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you, because yes, you're going to have human moments, and especially if you're not used to going through this process and it's draining, things like that. It's so important to have your dope nurses, to have dope people in your family and friends to be able to lift you up with all of that. I really enjoyed our conversation today. I can't believe that our time is running short as of now. But before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to share to someone who is maybe actively going through cancer, or someone who is actively grieving someone who just passed away from cancer?
For someone who is actively grieving someone or a loss of any sort, take your time. Take your time. Honor that process. Honor that process. Um, take time to figure it out. Take time to just let it happen. Feel the feels. Don't try and rush. For a person who is going through treatment, a cancer diagnosis is not a death sentence. Okay? There are so many meds out now that makes treatment a lot easier. We have things that make dealing with symptoms a lot better. So rely on your oncologist, rely on your medical team, and rely on your family. And for people who are caregivers, my heart goes out to you. Stay strong. You can't pour from an empty cup. So make sure that you are constantly refilling yourself. You're taking care of yourself, because you cannot take care of somebody else unless you are taking care of yourself. And I always like to close and end any conversation with this: for our community, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. Fill your boobs, get your lab work, do anything you need to do, so that if you ever have to end up in my chair, things were caught at the earliest point possible, okay? When we start treating diseases in the earlier stages, the chances of survivorship are much greater. So take care of yourself. Find yourself a doctor. And if you don't like your doctor, get a doctor that you like and trust, because that is important to have. for your health and your safety, have a medical team that you trust.
I love it. Shanette, thank you for being here. Shout out to Beaumont, who has such a jewel. I pray that they value you, and I'm sure they do because you've been there for so long. So I'm thankful that our paths have crossed, and for you to be able to have this conversation with me today. Listen, guys, this is not the last that you're going to see of her. I know that there's going to be great things. I'm speaking into existence.
Absolutely.
And I know there's more things that we're going to probably do together too. So you're coming along with me wherever I'm going. So make sure that you like, comment on this episode, share it with people who need to hear this, even if they're not in the cancer community. There's some great things that you need to know, because we all grieve something. Sometimes we're grieving food, we're grieving our financial situation, we're grieving so many different things. So some of the lessons that Shanette had just shared today, you can apply to that as well. So make sure that you join us next week. We are going to have one more show before we break for the Thanksgiving food, because I know if you're like me, I like to eat. Yes. So we'll have Anuja, who's going to come, and she's a breast cancer survivor, and I'm just really excited. I'm wearing white today to honor the those who dealt with lung cancer, so which both of our moms are those survivors. And I'm just, again, thankful to have you here. And until next week, guys, you take it easy and let's get into it.